pushing through the market square. So many mothers crying. News had just come over. We had 5 years.
Musically, it's a very interesting track. Because the track fades in, it leaves the listener thinking that it's an awkward time signature, but it actually isn't. It's a straight 6/8, but just at the point that the track fades in, you're caught on the wrong foot. So you tend to think that maybe it's a more complicated time signature than it really is.
5 Years starts with a drum intro, and that was really just setting the mood for the piece, really. Getting that hopelessness into a drum beat that was interesting at the same time as everything's hopeless and we're all going to die, I guess. Sounds very deep, what you can actually do with a drum kit, but you can do it.
It starts simply enough, big strident chords on piano and an instrument called an auto harp, which is an instrument that you strum with a whole load of strings, like a miniature harp. Just simple chords of G, A minor, A and C that go round and round and gradually build the tension.
5 Years is arguably the strongest song on Ziggy. Again, it's not the first song you'd think of if someone asked you to name your favourite track on Ziggy Stardust, but it's probably the strongest song on there.
I had to cram so many things to get everything and then so many people. All the short, fat people, and all the nobody people.
No matter where the arrangement goes, which it does get quite embellished on the way through and more desperate, the drum beat still has that apathetic hopelessness about it all the way through. And it was good actually playing that. It was like being the stable point through all this mayhem.
The tempo also is so slow, it just builds up this incredible sense of tension, because it never really goes anywhere, it never fires off into another gear. It just kind of plods along in this kind of, but it's just, it brings you to boiling point, really, because it's so slow and just plodding, but it's amazing.
Quite a disturbing lyric. The idea about a person sitting in an ice cream parlour oblivious to what's going to be going on.
Things are not going to improve on the planet, and although you can say the 5-year plan didn't quite work, I think it's a way a lot of people still look at life, in terms of we haven't got very long and we have to get our act together and do something, and it's something from the outside that has to influence and inspire us.
We've got 5 years stuck on my eyes. 5 years, what a surprise. We got 5 years, my brain hurts a lot. 5 years, that's all we got. We got 5 years stuck on my eyes.
The way the track builds is the playing gets more intense, the vocal gets more frantic as the song goes along. The wonderful string arrangement, once again, of Mick Ronson, with all these trademark semi-quaver cello runs that he's so famous for.
What Bowie did in that song, it was an epic for a start, and the way that he built it was to keep you on tenterhooks. So when you actually felt like you were into the song, he'd take you in a different direction.
It's an interesting song because it's sort of, a lot of the rest of Ziggy Stardust is very sort of fast and furious and in your face, and 5 years is just kind of Bowie on Bowie, but amazing. What an incredible song.
It's a magic build from start to finish, and then a release again, and I think this is probably my second favourite Bowie track of all time.
The only one thing that I always remember, I went in the studio one night, we were going out for dinner, and they were finishing off a mix of Moon Age Daydream. And Mick had put his guitar solo on the end, which I hadn't heard. And I walked in and they played it to us on the big speakers, quite loud. And when it finished, I knew then that was a great album, from that one track.
For me personally, Ziggy doesn't stand up as an album in the same way as Hunky Dory as a coherent, cohesive piece of work end to end. I don't think it's as good an album. It doesn't sound as good all these years later. But the title track is an amazing slice of sexy rock and roll.
I think Ziggy Stardust, the track, is really sets the mood for that whole album.
I don't know if Ziggy Stardust is the archetypal Bowie sound. It's certainly the archetypal Mick Ronson riff. What an incredible riff.
The glam thing had started to happen with Matt Boland and stuff. And the music industry had gone through the blues stage, you know, the Beatles, the Stones, and it went into this blues stage with bands like Cream and that coming through, and the rock, and you've got the Deep Purple, and you've got all that, which was okay for the heavier people. But for the younger kids and that, there really wasn't anything except poppy records. There wasn't anything you could like. There was no hero, superhero for them. You know what I mean? There hadn't been any for a while. And when Bowie came along with Ziggy, who was a superhero, really, they latched onto that superhero.
It's the perfect ad for the album, that song. It tells you what's on the record and, hey, come and get it. It's, you know, it really just tells you what you need to know about David Bowie.
When they came to see Ziggy Stardust, not David Bowie, that's what they came to see. And that was their hero, you know, and that's how it works. His cartoon character. And that's what he was on stage, you know, and it worked perfectly, the way it was put together.
David was good at that lyrically. Just when you thought you knew what it was about, he'd change direction on you and put a little knife in the back or a little twist to it. And I think musically we mirrored that really musically. It was like, okay, you think it's going there, but then, whoa, where did that come from? And the trick and the art was making it seem like it belonged, even though it shouldn't really be there. I think that was a big part of the sound, and Ziggy was one like that, really.
It's really hard to say why was that a great album. It just happened. We just went in, we recorded it, and everybody loved it. Because it's not down to us. It's down to the people that buy it, it's down to the people in radio stations, it's down to the press. When they got this album, they just went wild about it.
People couldn't sit down, basically. You knew when that was on, they would be up on the feet, just on the rhythm of it and the whole atmosphere of it.
Suffragette City, what a great simple track. It's like the best of the Stones and T-Rex all rolled into one. Another open tribute to Velvet Underground, who obviously influenced Bowie a lot.
And it's another incredible intro. This kind of sexy riff from Ronson. You just kind of, woof, makes you want to go out and party with some girls, you know. It's
Suffragette City just kicks butt. It's like it starts and it doesn't let up. And you're in a rock and roll city, you're in a rock and roll lifestyle, and that was the intention of it.
It's a swaggering rock track in the key of A, the big open A chords, which are a rock guitarist's delight.
That's another amazing lyric. Hey man, or leave me alone. Hey man, or Henry, get off the phone. How cool is that? Who's Henry? I don't know.
Suffragette City is a driving song. It's one of those songs, as soon as you hear the intro, you know it's going to really take you and get your head banging if you want, get your feet tapping, get you driving along. It's a motorway song in a way. You can actually put it in and you can hear it going down the motorway. And it's a great rhythmic rock and roll song.
The drumming on Suffragette City is very simple, but it was finding a groove that was like streamlined, that wasn't your normal rock and roll beat. It was moving. You had to get sort of real motion into it.
Bowie was actually quite a mean saxophone player. He played sax in a few bands in his David Jones years. But I think the sound of it is great. I think it captures that era of rock very, very well. It owes a lot to the Stones, in my humble opinion, but it just works. It's simplicity, and the best rock things ever are the most simple.
What a great ending to the song. Wham, bam, thank you, man, bang, and then they're back into it. That, to me, is what a rock and roll record should be about.
Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Somebody gets in here. Whoa, when somebody gets in here, she's so fine. I'm not the wish you were mine.
Another really good example of Bowie's ability to use the technical side of songwriting is on a song like Rock and Roll Suicide, which again is basically written in C major, which is a key you would expect somebody setting out on their writing career to use.
Time takes a cigarette, puts it in your mouth. Pull on your finger, then another finger, then your cigarette. While the wall-to-wall is calling, it lingers, but still you forget. Oh, you're a rock and roll suicide.
But suddenly, on the chorus, Bowie wants to change the mood. He wants to introduce this air of theatricality and the sort of flavour of the West End stage. And he does that by shifting key, just as we start the chorus, into G flat major. It's a typical dramatic flourish, which you would expect to find in musicals like Les Miserables. And Bowie knows that this is the point that he wants to suddenly change the whole mood and the whole style of the piece as we come into the chorus. So he modulates, he changes key from C to G flat major, which is an unusual key. But what it does is it introduces this air of theatricality into the proceedings. It's wonderfully well done.
Now the ship breaks the snarling as they stumble across the road. But the day breaks instead, so you hurry home. Don't let the sunlight blast your shadow. Don't let the milk flow behind your mind. They're so natural, religiously unkind. Oh no, love, you're not alone. You're watching yourself, but you're so unfair. You got your head all tangled up, pretty far can only make you care. Oh no, love, you're not alone. No matter what or who you meet, no matter when or where you see, all the knives see to lacerate your brain. I've had my share, now I'll help you with the pain. You're not alone. Just turn on with me, and you're not alone. Let me put my arms around your head. Gee, it's hot. Let's go to bed. Don't forget to turn on the lights.
Driving Saturday, every time I hear it, just reminds me of two things: the Rocky Horror Show and Back to the Future, because it's got that 1950s B-movie feel to it. It's doo-wop. It's cinematic in the way it's describing itself as well.
Driving Saturday is another one of my favourites, actually. I think it's just a futuristic rock song that isn't pretentious. It's just, I think that track's going to we'll see more of that track in the future. I think it's been passed over for some reason.
It's got that great feel about Remember When, even though Bowie wasn't part of Remember When because he was living in England. We didn't have drive-in cinemas or anything like that. He was talking about America. But it's America that has a certain glamour and nostalgia. It's America a lot of people like to think existed in the 1950s when rock and roll was first starting to come through.
It also proved that, of course, he wasn't just this, you know, rock monster guy. Bowie also loved black music, you know. I mean, he insisted on being booked onto Soul Train when they were promoting Young Americans. He was the first white artist who'd ever been booked on Soul Train in America. Classic Bowie. He just didn't ever operate by anyone else's parameters or rules.
Drive-In Saturday features something that Bowie's quite fond of, unexpected chord changes into the chorus. It's a 12/8 that starts in A, and rather than going to D or something like that, or staying in A for the chorus, it drops down to G, which is a drop, but it's a lift musically at the same time.
It's always funny, and he's strong enough to stay. And she'd sigh like Twig the Wonder Kid and turn her face away. She's uncertain if she likes him, but she knows she really loves him.
When I came down to London to join Bowie, I had a full beard. I mean, I had a full beard. It was down to here, right? Because I was in, I don't know, I'd come up with the blues era, and Fleetwood Mac, and the Beatles, and all that. Everybody had beards, you know. And it was getting to the end of that era, you know. It was about time I shaved it off anyway. But and Meg and Woody were clean shaved, and Bowie was clean shaved. And I kept looking at them, and I kept thinking, like, well, I look just so odd against these two. I'm just ain't going to match in here. So what I decided to do was, I thought, well, I'll shave the middle out. So I shaved the middle out, all right? And I left the tash and the sideburns. And I had that for a while. And I thought, no, that looks stupid. So I shaved the tash off, right? And it was just at the time when we'd just done Ziggy and we were getting the image together. And I thought, well, I'll shave the sideburns off as well. And then Angie Bowie says, don't you shave them off. They're part of your image now. So I was left with them. And then because she sprayed them silver, because she had this silver tinted spray that she went on spraying everybody with. And she got hold of me, and that was
I loved the weird doo-woppy backing vocals, the concept of the song is probably more current for nowadays than it was when it was written. It's a good song.
It features some great guitar work, some great guitar riffs, and some very interesting piano by Mike Garson, who has a totally different style of playing to Rick Wakeman. It's a much more basic, almost solid style, if you like, but it works very, very well on this track.
The drumming was, again, a simplistic approach. It was just really let the arrangement and everything else ride on top of this groove you've set up, and you can't really break it down or mess about with it. It was, again, the stable point, you know.
It's the B-movie element, going to the cinema and watching The Creature from the Black Lagoon or something very similar. It does have that feel, and it's the same reason that I always cite the Rocky Horror Show, because the Rocky Horror Show has the same feel, and Bowie did it around the same period with a song. And I'd love to see a movie made from Drive-In Saturday. That would be very interesting.
It's a bit of a send-up. The saccharine, you know, the sweetness of it, the pastiche of the old 50s style doo-wop in the 12/8 feel works incredibly well. The saxophone is great. Bowie's over-sweet, strong vibrato on the sax, to me, works extremely well. And it's just a great vibe. There's a great feel to it. And I think the whole band were very, very good at that kind of style, that kind of, is it a send-up or isn't it? You know, you're never sure whether he's dead serious about it or whether he's completely tongue-in-cheek.
Driving Saturday, it's a driving Saturday, it's a driving Saturday, it's a sir, yes sir, yes sir, yes sir, yes sir, yes sir, yes sir.
Pin-Ups was an interesting album. These days, covers are de rigueur. Everyone does it. They do covers albums, covers EPs. They do covers all the time. Back in the mid-70s, it was almost unheard of.
I mean, it's a good album, but what is it? It's an album of cover songs. There was a story once that somebody asked Bowie about why did he do that album, and he said, "Oh, I did the album because the band were bored and needed something to do, so he blamed us for it." When actually, I always remember going around to a hotel in London, and he was playing me all the songs that he was going to do on the album, and I knew nothing about it.
Pin-Ups from 1973. It's arguable as to whether or not it was a wise career move. A lot of die-hard fans, my son included, who's the biggest Bowie fan in the whole world, just don't like the album, full stop.
I think Pin-Ups was probably really the only option at the time, because we'd been basically working more or less non-stop for a couple of years. You know, we'd had like Christmas Day off, and that was about it. So the luxury of sitting at home like he did in the early days and just write wasn't really there. He wrote some on the road and on the bus sometimes, but there wasn't like another album's worth written.
It was an album, he thought he was pressurised, I think. You know, when record companies, he's got big success, they want another album. And I don't think he had the songs. He'd been out on the road touring, and I don't really think he had the don't think he had the material, I don't think he had the direction, where to go, or anything. And I think it was, how can I fill this gap quick?
Pin-Ups is an interesting album, but it's certainly, creatively, it's not one of the most interesting in Bowie's career by any stretch of the imagination. There's some great moments on there, some great songs, but, you know, at the end of the day, it is a Bowie album, but it's not an album of Bowie songs.
There was obviously an album was needed by a record company or whatever, and that was the obvious choice, really. Some of the tracks, I think, worked. Others would have been better left. Most of them.
It was all stuff from his era going down the marquee, all the bands he saw on the marquee. Right. And he picked some great songs, but it wasn't a Bowie album. It was a cover version album. And the last thing people want when you're riding on the high of Ziggy and Aladdin Sane is for him to come out and do a cover album. You know, they want new material.
Bowie is very much his own man, always has been. So you couldn't argue, for example, that it was a stopgap, that he wasn't writing material and he needed to put an album out. I think I would tend to be generous in thought and say that he genuinely wanted to pay tribute to these tracks and these artists, and he did the best job that he could.
We'd always talked about doing an album of our favourite tracks, but it was more a whim, more a, ooh, wouldn't it be quite nice to do that? And I think the trials and tribulations of being on the road and not being able to just consistently sit at home and write got him to a point where he didn't have much written.
Diamond Dogs was a little bit of a patchy album. It was coming towards the end of a certain era for Bowie. And you sometimes got the feeling at that point that Bowie allowed things to go on slightly too long. Later on in his career, he'd be very ruthless in terms of, right, I don't want to do another album like this because I've done everything I want to do in that area. Heroes and Low, for instance. He could have done a third album because I think everyone was fascinated by where he'd go. No, I've done it. I don't need to do anything more because I can't top Heroes.
Many people think that Diamond Dogs was a bit of a disappointment, and I have to put my hand on my heart and say I think yes it was. I think he'd fired the Spiders from Mars. Goodness knows why. One hastens to guess why he would have broken up such a successful format. It
was desperate. It was a desperate album in content, but I thought it was incredible in setting a whole scene up of desperateness and the 1984 approach. I think it was brilliant. in that context.
I was gutted when he parted company with the Spiders from Mars at this time, because they've made such great music. The title track is interesting enough. Certainly Bowie showed that a lot of the bizarre ideas did in fact come from him, because they're present on this album. But then there are some weak moments. I mean, Rock and Roll With Me, quite frankly, is duff. I think it's a really duff track.
I think Diamond Dogs definitely suffers from that lack of band cohesion. Maybe the songs also were a bit ambitious. They're very themed, very much around the whole 1984 George Orwell thing. So, you know, maybe it was a bit too conceptual.
I think it stretched audiences just a little bit too much in the image of it and the content. It's probably up to that point, the stretching was just enough that they could actually tolerate. It stretched them, but it didn't overstretch. And I think Diamond Dogs just pulled it a little bit into the, ooh, not sure if we want to go there, is my opinion.
The album was originally conceived as a concept album based on George Orwell's 1984, and the song 1984 is actually one of my favourites from that particular album. But I would hasten to add that you know, it did have a great single on it, but which was Rebel Rebel, of course. But generally speaking, to most people, I think it was a bit of a disappointment. But hey, the guy made some great albums. I think you're entitled to one that's not quite 100%.
Rebel Rebel, in some respects, was a rewrite of Gene Genie to me. He was repeating himself a little bit, which is something Bowie rarely did and has rarely done since. It's a good single. It's got the obvious build-up. It's a rock and roll song, and it's got the chorus.
Some people have accused him of kind of rewriting the Gene Genie with Rebel Rebel, which I just think is very harsh. It's a classic Bowie single, one of the best riffs Ronson ever wrote.
Of course, Rebel Rebel was the big hit single from Diamond Dogs, and was it as good as previous singles? As a song, I think absolutely. I think it was great. That wonderful riff from D to E, I think it was used on a commercial for jeans or something or other. I remember it being used, I know Gene Genie was, but I think Rebel Rebel was used in a commercial as well.
To me, it's the guitar playing. It's just the big sort of the big rock riff. Down, 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 down. You know, it's just, it oozes classy rock.
Say I'm wrong. It's everything. Put them on. Rebel, rebel, it's on your dress. Rebel, rebel, your face is a mess. Rebel, rebel, after they know. Hot tramp, I love you so.
Really, the riff was it, and I believe actually Bowie played the riff himself without Mick Ronson being there. But one gets the impression of how much more powerful it would have been if the Spiders had been playing that track, and that's what always stays for me. Yeah, it's a great track, it's a great single, but not as powerful as it could have been.
I thought it was good as well. I did. Now the Trevor or I played on that one, but most people assume we did, because it seems to have that same approach. I think that's probably the only other track without us that sounds like us. Whether that was intentional, I don't know. But it was definitely a good single.
I don't think it's as good as Gene Genie, but it's a good single in its own right. But unfortunately, because of where it came in Bowie's career, it really started to repeat what had come before. And that's not something Bowie fans ever wanted, and Bowie himself never accepted it.
They had these kind of very ambiguous lyrics that very much captured the sort of gender-bending times. You got your mother in a well, she's not sure if you're a boy or a girl. You know, there's a lot of messages going on there that I'm sure half of his public didn't actually understand, or half of the people buying the records didn't really know what he was talking about. But there were all these sort of secret messages of this sort of underground existence that Bowie was living.
Because your faces are made. So how could they know? I said, how could they know? So what you wanna know? Calamity child, you tell me where you wanna go. What can I do for you? Looks like I've been there too. Because you're born in jail. And your faces are made.
In honesty, I would say All the Young Dudes was one of his classic songs.
All the Young Dudes was a great track. The Mott the Hoople version was absolutely fantastic, and so was Bowie's. But when you listen to the Mott version, I think there's no doubt in the listener's mind that, oh yes, that this is a Bowie track.
All the Young Dudes is the greatest song Bowie never had, although he wrote it and gave it to Mott the Hoople and said, here you are guys, you need a hit single. I don't need this, you do it.
I guess we were a little annoyed that we didn't have it out as a single at the time, because you could see the potential of it. But it was helping Mott out, so it was cool. They were about to break up if they didn't have a hit single. And that was definitely a hit single from the first moment you heard it.
It's my opinion that no, he shouldn't have kept it. I think that it's a wonderful, wonderful record by Mott the Hoople, and of course David was hanging out with Ian Hunter, and was sort of, you know, was a fan of the band.
All the Young Dudes was a song that dated from the Aladdin Sane sessions. But by that point, Bowie was so creatively, was so firing on all cylinders. You know, he had songs seemingly coming out of every single pore in his body, you know. So I don't think it was a big issue to give All the Young Dudes to Mott the Hoople. You know, it was just Bowie giving away a song that he didn't quite know what to do with at the time.
He knew Mott the Hoople had what it took to make it happen, and they did. It's one of the greatest Bowie songs of all time, but it's not a song you associate with Bowie. How ironic is that?
Yeah, they came and said, we're going to split up, we haven't got a hit or whatever. And he said, I'll write you one, and that's the one that he wrote. And they did it, basically. And that really saved their careers for a bit.
Mott the Hoople made it into a classic. They actually infused it with life. It may be Bowie's song, but in the same way that the finest exponent of All Along the Watchtower wasn't the writer Bob Dylan, but was Jimi Hendrix. And it could never be equalled by Bob Dylan. I don't think Bowie could have done justice to All the Young Dudes the way that Mott the Hoople did.
Should he have kept it? I think that's a debate that will go on forever, really. Yes, he could have kept it and had a big hit with it, but he didn't actually need to. So gracious of him to pass it over to Mott the Hoople.
The Hammersmith Odeon in London. David Bowie plays the part of Ziggy Stardust for the last time. Ziggy was Bowie's most celebrated role, a weird and fated rock star who was both a parody of the archetypal rock star and an extension of Bowie's own personality.
Now Ziggy played guitar, jamming good with weird and spiders from Mars. Well, he played it left hand, but he made it too far, became the special man.
The Ziggy motion picture is one that I watch from time to time with my son. We're both fans of this. You have to remember that it's 31 years old, and so the lighting is a bit poor. I don't think the band get enough shots in it. I think there is one wonderful section where you can see Trevor. But generally speaking, it's very, very good.
Ziggy Stardust motion picture is very patchy. It's not particularly good. It really shouldn't have been made because it didn't live up to where Ziggy Stardust should have been.
I haven't actually seen the recut of it. I thought the atmosphere was good, so it's probably the same. The sound was always a bit suspect. I don't know whether that's been enhanced or not. I would hope so.
The film of Bowie in performance at the Hammersmith Audience was recently re-released under the rather grandiose title Ziggy Stardust the Motion Picture, because it is not really a motion picture in that respect. It was shot on film, but the resources aren't adequate to do the performance justice. The camera work is decidedly weak. It's not properly lit. A lot of it's out of focus, and there aren't enough cameras to capture the event and to capture the excitement of the event on stage.
Oh You Pretty Things, I actually think he's not that brilliant. His voice is not that wonderful on it, but there are some great moments. My Death is absolutely fantastic. Time is absolutely fantastic. Moon Age Daydream is brilliant when you see the fans in the audience singing along with it. It's absolutely great.
Part of the problem is that what you needed was a great epic performance. The Man Who Fell to Earth was really Ziggy Stardust the Motion Picture. That should have been renamed Ziggy Stardust the Motion Picture, but the actual movie itself is a little disappointing. It's a little flat. It doesn't quite capture the grandeur of the vision, the topicality of what Bowie was talking about, and more importantly, the urgency of the whole thing that surrounded him. And I think it really let down the whole image.
And there's one section where Ronson plays a long guitar solo, and you first of all on the film you see him play the solo, and then you see that Bowie has gone off stage for a costume change, and you can see him in the dressing room changing while you hear the solo going on.
It's a very disappointing film from a technical point of view, but obviously as a historical document it's one of the few complete records we've got of just how good Bowie was on stage at that time.
To the best of my knowledge, there wasn't a huge amount of repatching or re-recording after the event. I think it's a really important film. I think technically it's not wonderful. I think the 5.1 mix that my old friend Tony Visconti's done is very, very good indeed. But if you're a Bowie fan, how can you not have that film?
It was good to watch personally. Whether that effect is the same from somebody not in the band, I can't really say.
What you needed are reverses from behind the band to show you the crowd and the reaction to the crowd. There are very limited camera angles, and obviously that's due to the difficulties of shooting these things on film. The cameras are constantly running out of film. It's difficult to handle sound on a film production, and all of those weaknesses come through. So I think calling it the motion picture is a slightly over-the-top description for what is a very basic record of Bowie live in performance.
She's a wonderful man. Hey. Bye-bye, we love you.
Working with David was different. It was, you know, sometimes a matter of keeping up with where he was going.
I know loads of people who would love to have done what I did. You know, it was the most exciting thing I've ever done.
In the studio, sometimes impatient, you know, which probably led to the reason why we only did 3 takes at the most. He would expect everybody to really have it together. So you had to, you know, otherwise the atmosphere would go a bit sour. Once you knew that was the game, then you played that game, and it was all right. So that got tough.
Well, the band, you've got 3 musicians from Hull. 2 of them have played together for quite a long time in a band called The Rats, and then me, who played in the area in another band, a rival band. And we all did the same sort of music. And we were all into heavy rock and blues and power music, you know, good feel power music. And then when I joined, we still had that. And then we took it to Bowie, who basically, in some respects, was a folk singer. And you put his songs with our music and our power that we had, and he's put the really great songs together, and all of a sudden the songs change because the band turns it and twists it, and you come up with a great combination, you know. And I think that's what happened. It was just either happened by chance or it was fate or whatever, I don't know, but it just happened. It just gelled.
Generally, I guess it was fun as well, above everything. You did your job. You did what was wanted live and everything else, and you had a good time.
Oh, the music stood the test of time without fail, you know. I mean, people still... That album still gets voted one of the albums of all time.
He made The Man Who Sold the World, Hunky Dory, Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars, Aladdin Sane, obviously Pin-Ups, and then Diamond Dogs and Young Americans. It's ridiculous. If you told anyone today that a modern day artist was going to have that kind of creative success, you know, 6 albums that would change the world, or have many records that is, no one would believe you today.
Everybody I talk to must have a Ziggy album in this country. And everybody I meet that was a Bowie fan, that was their era. Was the Spiders and Ziggy era.
It's like that thing of the happy times are getting there, not necessarily when you get there. You know, when you look back, you realise that they were the good times, and you didn't sort of notice the really good times because you were going through them, thinking the good time was at the other end. But you get there and look back and you go, no, that was a good time. You know, I mean, even sleeping in a sleeping bag on his landing in his flat, which is where we probably slept for about a year. The whole band were in sleeping bags, you know, doing the first albums and that. And at the time you think it's rough. You look back and you think, no, it was actually cool. We got up, had a coffee, went down and played drums straight away and jammed, and then had breakfast, and, you know, it was good. It was a good scene, you know.
And then to do Ziggy, and then from then on for Ziggy to take off. I mean, I'd always wanted to be in a band that was successful, and that was huge, you know. And it wasn't the sort of success where you do an album, you have a hit album, and then nobody ever hears about you again. To do Ziggy, which is a classic album, and it always will be, you know, it's up there with Sgt. Pepper and stuff like that. It was amazing to play on that. The period that I was with Bowie was only, I think it was 3 years. And when I'd finished with him, I didn't know if Ziggy would ever be recognised as a great album all that period, you know. I mean, I went on to join Heap and then Wishbone and Heap again. But still today, people just love that album and love that era, and people just talk about it all the time. And it's always on the TV, and it's always in the newspaper, and it's always there. It's never gone away. It's such an important era of rock and roll, and I mean, it's amazing that I actually played on all that stuff. You know, it's brilliant for me.
David Bowie's not the best singer in the world, but fantastic. Just the sort of showmanship aspect, the entertainment aspect of his career, his sort of hunger for it, and his belief, his complete and utter belief in his whole imagery and the sort of stories he weaves. That coupled with amazing songwriting, I really think is a winning combination, and that's why he's one of the superstars.
He was always ambiguous, obscure, always interesting. In fact, Hunky Dory, the album, was he's got on record as saying that he was influenced by the writings of Friedrich Nietzsche, the philosopher. He would always be unafraid of tackling salacious subjects.
I mean, because I'd gone from just playing in local bands, never been in a recording studio before, to going into a recording studio, doing Hunky Dory, which I adored as an album. I was proud. If I'd have only done that, I'd have been proud of that, you know.
It's always difficult to define David Bowie's golden era because every era is different. I think if you speak to Bowie fans who got into him around the 71, 74 period, the Spiders era if you want, they'll always say that was the best period.
I would have preferred to have gone out and, like we were originally going to do, was to have sort of partied with Bowie in a way and gone out, and me, Mick and Woody had gone out and done a band, done the Spiders thing together. I think if we'd have done that, which we were going to do, until certain forces and management stepped in and stopped it, I think that would have been great, because we wouldn't have known where we would have gone as a band as well. We could have gone on and done great albums.
So I think first and foremost at the drawing board, I think it's his songwriting that really, really shines, and you know, through nearly 4 decades, I think he's consistently come up with great songs, you know, from early on right through the Ziggy period, right through to the Let's Dance period. Just awesome, awesome songs.
And we weren't given the chance because other people didn't want it to happen, which is sad, I think, you know. I'd like to have gone out like that, but the way it went out, it was pretty, not a nice ending to such a great time, you know. It still gets me today, you know. I still think about it and think, you know, if we'd have just done this, you know, never mind without David or whatever, but if we'd have just gone on and done something else and carried it through a bit further. But unfortunately it stopped when Ronson did his solo albums, and Woody got fired. And I sort of did this album with Ainsley Dunbar, but the heart had gone out of the band then, you know. I mean, Ainsley Dunbar's a great drummer, but it's not Woody Woodmansey. You know, you lose a member of the band and it changes.
Lyrically, always very, very interesting. And although he was not, in the traditional sense, a brilliant guitar player, he was able to come up with some very unusual chord structures. He was not afraid of using flattened fifths. He was not afraid of using major sevenths in the bass, which was previously unheard of, as in Space Oddity and Starman at the start. I think his sax playing was quite bizarre at times. And I think the combination of his unusual musical ideas with the wide range of lyrical subjects that he used to incorporate is one secret to his success.
I don't think there was anyone like Bowie before he came along. I don't think there has been anyone since, and I don't think there ever will be anyone like David Bowie again. We will never see his like again. He is the most influential artist of all time, and his music will still be listened to, along with the Beatles. His people will still be listening to Bowie's music in 200 years' time. I'm quite convinced of it.
To me, David Bowie is one of the most amazing rock era performers we have ever seen and will ever see, because he was one of the very few artists, and is one of the very few artists, who understands the value of change and always understands the value of doing things to the maximum. So he'll always do things with the greatest effort possible, with the greatest talents possible. And there aren't many artists you can say that about. He seems to have an ability to bring out the best in other people, because that brings out the best in him.
He appealed across the board to gender benders, to men, to women, to boys, to girls, still does. And I think it's very difficult to say exactly that was the reason for his success. There are so many reasons. Commercial melodies, you'll take something like John, I'm Only Dancing, Starman, a wonderfully sing-along chorus, and that you've got something as intricate and musical as Space Oddity. I think he's a very complex guy, and I think his complexity is the key to his success.